Hello, I'm State Representative Heather Scott from North Idaho, and I wanted to share some information about media with you today. And many of you that know me or have watched my videos in the past, you know I'm an easy target for the media, but something different is happening with our media lately, and I want to share what I believe is coming out to be a political hit piece on me, and what I've learned is why they're doing this and how they're doing it in coordination. And so I got a call. I've been getting calls from a reporter up in North Idaho area, Spokane, Washington area, and it's a pretty liberal paper up there, and we call it the Inslander. You can probably guess the name. And there's a reporter from up there. His name is Daniel Walters, and this gentleman's been calling me for a couple of weeks now, trying to get an interview with me, and it just hasn't worked out with my schedule. But what's interesting, he's already got designed what he wants to talk about, and his one of his phone messages, and I won't play it right now, was, Heather Scott, the leader of the Patriot Redoubt movement. And so it was kind of interesting, but I said, sure, I'm trying to connect. But then I started to hear from my colleagues down here in Boise. I had a legislator, a senator, come and say, hey, this reporter, this kind of weird reporter guy keeps calling, and he's called my son. And she said, my son's Muslim. And I'm like, yeah, so? And she said, well, he seems to have a lot of questions about you and your relationship with, my son. And I might have met her son, but I'm not sure I remember. But he was interviewing this gentleman to find out information about me, I guess. So then I get another, just a few days later, I get one of the Democrats, and she came up to me and she said, this reporter's calling me and he wants to ask me a bunch of questions about you. What's going on? So I kind of told her what's going on, and what is going on is this gentleman, Daniel Walters, he was one of the four main sources in a report that came out against a conservative Republican in Washington, a state representative up there, Matt Shea. And so this was he was one of the main four sources cited in this bogus report. It's called the Rampart Report. In Southern Poverty Law Center was one of the main sources. Wikipedia was another main source. And then this guy, and then some Satilli lady, who I think wrote for Playboy at one point. So these are people that put a report together, and this report basically called this state representative a domestic terrorist. And then the Democrats all kind of rallied and said, hey, step down, we don't want you in office anymore. And the state representative is like, no, I'm not going to step down. But this is going on in the state of Washington, and now my name was mentioned in the report against this state representative, Matt Shea, for being at some of the same events that Matt Shea was at. So this guy's trying to tie this all together and connect the dots. And so I guess what's interesting is the left has rallied around this bogus report, and they're trying to get this gentleman to step down from office. And he's not going to step down for office. So then they try to get him expelled from the body, and he's not going to get expelled from the body, because just because a reporter calls you a domestic terrorist or calls you a white nationalist or a white supremacist or whatever they want to label you as, doesn't mean that that's actually what or who you are. What I found out, which is really interesting and why I'm doing this video, is why they're doing this. And so what's going on is I've got several reports here, and these were put out by the Center for Self-Governance, and they've shared these reports with Congress and what's going on in our country right now. And the title of it is The Political Weaponization of Labels. And so what I found out, which is very disturbing, is under the Obama administration in 2009, they came out for Department of Homeland Security and set up a lexicon. And these are the terms that they're using in the Department of Homeland Security to talk about domestic terrorists. And it's interesting Patriot movement, a term used by right-wing extremists to link their beliefs to those commonly associated with the American Revolution. The Patriot movement primarily comprises of violent, anti-government groups such as militias, sovereign citizens, also Christian patriots, patriot groups, and constitutionalists. Now, I've took an oath, as many others have, is to uphold the Constitution, but according to this definition, I may be I might be on their list. So the other thing it also mentions is they're opposed. The term can also refer to right-wing extremism movements that are dedicated to a single issue, such as opposition to abortion or immigration. So what's interesting to me is this hit piece coming out on me by this Daniel Walters, who's trying to say that I'm the leader of this patriot movement. It's not unique. You know, you all think you're unique. We all think we're unique, and they're just coming after you. I got a list of several people that this same tactic has been used. So what they do is they label you, and they label you by putting you, they basically call you a name or associate you with something, and then they repeat it over and over in the media. And the media, they're collaborating and coordinating these articles. And they started to do this years ago to me, for calling me a white nationalist, which is crazy. But what happens is one paper puts it down, and then the next person quotes it, and they just keep reiterating it back and forth and try to stir up this frenzy. Now I know why, because it's in the lexicon, and what they're trying to do is create a pattern and to label. So in 6 years, when we get a new president, there is the opportunity to get another Obama and basically take out your political enemies by labeling them. We call it label lynching sometimes. But here's a list of a few of the people, and you'll probably know many of these. President Trump with his impeachment. Vice President Pence was called a white supremacist by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Karen Pence was called a white nationalist. Congressman Steve King, if you have not watched the video on Congressman Steve King, he has tied this political weaponization of words together. He's a congressman that they're pulling from committees and trying to put pressure on him at the federal level, because the New York Times, because of his stance on immigration, called him a white nationalist. And now that word has been labeled on him, and they keep repeating it over and over, and that's what they use as their tactics to try to intimidate and bully and get other people to intimidate and bully to get you to step down from office. Candace Owens, if you remember, she was a black conservative attacked by Democrat Antifa. You've got Nick Sandmann, Covington Catholic Church, the lawsuit there. There was the coach fired in Washington for prayer, Joseph Kennedy. The Colorado baker, Jack Smith, the Washington florist, LaVoy Finnegum. If you remember this tragic story of a gentleman who was labeled a extreme white supremacist, and then they basically killed this guy. That's a whole long other story. And then there's people in prison for this same thing, and you know there's just the list goes on. I have a whole bunch of lists. So this is not unique to North Idaho. It's not unique to Western Idaho, Western United States. This is going on across the country. And you know what all these people have in common? They're all conservative Christians. This is literally targeting conservative Christians across the country who anyone that the left or the media believes that their views are way too conservative for the likings. So I'm going to go back to the reporter, because these reporters, and I don't know, I haven't uncovered this, and maybe you, the citizens, can help me. So they're working for somebody. Somebody is giving them their marching orders, because I've got the questions. This guy that wants to interview me, and every question in here, well, lots of the questions, they mention Redoubt Patriot Movement. Tell me about other members of the Patriot Movement. A lot of outsiders don't realize that the Patriot Movement is intellectually diverse. You know, they try to fluff you up to get information. What they want to do is tie me with a political patriot movement because the political patriot movement is listed right here in Obama's DHS lexicon for domestic terrorism. This is scary because we need to hear everybody's beliefs. This country is a free country. People should be free and not afraid to speak their mind on anything, even if it's offensive. We need to talk to each other as citizens, and media doesn't like that. So I could go down this list. He continually tries to tie movement. He tries to pull God into it. Where's your guidance from God to get you in politics? He claims I went to some meeting with the biblical basis for war. I don't know what that. I do not think I was at that meeting, but it sounds interesting. And so all these are this is a concerted effort by reporters like this across the country. Now I will, if this video gets out there, I won't do this interview with this gentleman because it's a waste of my time, and he wants me on the record to get me to say, yeah, I'm part of this movement, because then in 6 years when Trump's gone, he can come after me and target me as a political. They can silence your voice. There's politicians on this list that their spouses are in prison because this is how evil these people are. So I want to tell you how you can help and what you could really do. And I'm going to put the website, or I'm going to put the link at the bottom. I'm gonna do a link to these documents so you can see what's going on and read. It's a lot of pages if you want to read, but what would really help is if you would sign the petition. We are asking President Trump if we can get 100,000 signatures. He will look into this issue. He will work on this lexicon and maybe remove the conservatives off the lexicon for domestic terrorism in our country. And I guess I'm pleading with you. Please sign the petition. It would be helpful to me, but it would be helpful to hundreds and thousands of conservative Christians around the country who feel like their voices are being suppressed by the leftist media and the fake news. So I thank you for watching the video, and I'll put the links at the bottom if I can figure out how to do that, and hopefully you will sign the petition. Thank you.